Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wastewater Operations channel. I want to apologize up front for not having any new videos out for a while. It's getting to be summertime here in our plant and things are just crazy. We're in construction, we're piloting equipment, there's 100 things going on. It's just taking me away from these projects. While I was on that downtime, however, I got to thinking about our biosolids. At our plant we process a Class B biosolid, and it leaves here in trucks and it goes to the other side of the state, and I really don't know anything about what happens to it from there. As an operator, we usually just want to get done with what we're doing, and it feels like that product leaving here is the end of something. In reality, I know that's not true, and I'm sure there's a lot more to it. So what we do on Wastewater Operations channel is we make phone calls and we ask questions. Now, no sooner did I make some phone calls and ask those questions that I got invited to come see the project where they apply our biosolids. So I scheduled a day, took some time off, and headed over there for the whole day. I'm gonna have a series of these videos, and I promise if you stay with them, everybody can get something out of them. As always, like and subscribe down below if you like what you see. Leave me a comment or even drop me an email. My email address is in the description below. So we're on the road, we're headed to Eastern Washington. We're gonna take a look at the Biosolids Applications site. It's a long ways to travel. We're gonna meet up with Jake Finlinson, the project manager from King County, and he's gonna show us around. I've got an hour to drive to the mountain pass and then meet up with him, and then we'll have 2 more hours to drive on to Mansfield and Boulder Park. Our plant's just one of dozens of plants that take their biosolids to Eastern Washington. Obviously not everyone's from the area. Western Washington gets a lot of rain. So that rain makes the ground more saturated and more susceptible to leaching with the nitrogen in the biosolids. So there's not a lot of land application on the west side of our state. Eastern Washington, by contrast, is very dry. They do get some rain and they get some snowfall, but it's mostly agricultural land and there's lots of sunshine.
Waterville Country right now. So Waterville Country is the south half of the plateau, and there's a lot less rocks. It's more clay soils, and the past geologic events have kind of dictated farming practices on the plateau. So 17,000 years ago or whatever, the last ice age, that Cordillean ice sheet came down from North America, Canada, and covered half of the plateau. And when it receded, it dropped everything it carried along and scoured out. And so the north half of Douglas County, where this plateau is, mostly heavy sand, a lot more rock and debris, and the landscape is completely different than what you're seeing here. This is very, for the most part, flat, rolling hills, and like I said, clay soils. So they actually continue conventional tillage practices here, and what they'll do is when they're tilling, it's kind of counterintuitive. They're turning the soils not only for weed management, but for moisture management. Okay. And it seems like as you're going through and tilling those soils that you would actually be losing moisture in evaporation. But what it does is it turns that soil and creates a mulch. I say they break it up and it creates a mulch layer across the top that actually maintains moisture in the ground. Whereas in Mansfield country. It's very sandy soils. It's very prone to wind erosion, and they're going with new farming practices or newer farming practices called no-till or conservation tillage practices, where they will leave it fallow in straw. They won't plow it.
Oh, I see.
Like you're seeing here.
Just to help contain some of that erosion.
So yeah, you're leaving the root mound in place.
Right.
You're allowing the structure to continue, and it's less prone to wind erosion. And then they'll use new technology, new drills that will actually seed right through the straw.
Oh, I got you.
So it's kind of interesting, the differences just on this plateau. As we come around here and get further in, we'll be able to see the terminal moraine where that ice sheet stopped, and we'll hit it and we'll drive right up onto it, and you'll see the landscape change immediately.
Gotcha. What types of crops are allowed to have biosolids applied to them? Because you said you can't apply to rooting vegetables, those types of things.
Yeah, so there's the rule provides timelines between when biosolids are applied and how soon after you can harvest.
Okay.
So up here with dry land, we're growing winter wheat, canola, oats, triticale, winter peas. There's some grasses and hay being grown. And the rule is that it's a 30-day harvest limit, so you cannot harvest within 30 days of an application, which it's really good up here because they're seeding in a year before they harvest anyways in almost all these crops. So we're applying biosolids, and it's at least a year before harvest. Down in the basin, where the ground is a lot more fertile and they have a lot more better soil quality, a lot more irrigation, they're doing a lot more root crops, potatoes and onions and carrots and that sort of thing. And it's a 30-month timeline between application and harvest. So you could still do it there, and they could rotate crops in and out between biosolids application, but as a biosolids manager, we can't control what the farmer does in between, and so we would run the risk of a farmer changing his planting scheme, I guess, and planting a root crop and harvesting within that 30-month, which would be against the rule. So we don't take that chance, and we stick to pretty much these dry land.
So that's part of the uniqueness of this area then, is that this it really has more to do with the application time and sort of the dry, like you said, the dryness. That just happens to favor that downtime or the fallow time for some of the fields, which is kind of interesting. Although, like you said, if the soil's really nice down in, say, in the valley, then obviously maybe it's not something that people need the biosolids the way they might in an area like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you look at our application map, we do biosolids applications on the north end of the plateau and in the Waterville Country on the south end of the plateau, where the soils are a little better quality. But you'll see most of our applications are in the more sandy, marginal soil areas. It really helps adding that organic matter. So farmers obviously want biosolids for the nutrient value, but even bigger, there's farmers up here that would love to see the rule change to where not only are you looking at the nitrogen input, but also as a soil amendment value for organic matter to help build those soils for sustainable farming practices in the future. I mean, what's been happening over the years is it's been pretty much a monoculture where they're doing crop fallow rotation, wheat after wheat after wheat after wheat crop.
Right.
You know, tillage after tillage, and doing the same thing over and over. And it just doesn't lend itself for long-term farming practices. At some point, you're going to mine out all the minerals and nutrients out of this soil, and you're going to pulverize it to the point where it's just not as productive as it once was, and you're going to continue to degrade it. So biosolids, they've been finding that biosolids, adding that organic matter aspect to it, have been a lifesaver in this man-filled country.
Sure. Yeah, and that's part of the idea of crop rotation. I mean, it's my understanding that different plants put different things into the ground and take different things out of the ground.
Yeah.
So the importance there is that you wouldn't be planting the same thing over and over and over, because you'd strip the ground of the one thing, or maybe, you know, the few things that plant pulls, and then you're not putting anything necessarily back in that plant will use, you know, next time.
And farmers, you know, they tend to, crops need nitrogen,
right?
They need phosphorus, and all these macronutrients. But what's not happening is you get a soil test back and you're deficient in boron, or zinc, or copper, or manganese, and so Biosolids has all 16 plant essential nutrients, and so you are adding, it's a one-stop shop. You're getting it, everything that you need to maintain a healthy soil. The other thing about being able to go on different crop rotation and stuff is it helps break disease cycle. So if you do wheat after wheat after wheat after wheat, and you end up with some kind of disease going on, or if you can go canola to wheat, or I'm not exactly sure of the difference, what helps another crop break that cycle and stuff, but these guys, the farmers up here know,
right?
and the researchers have been they know, and so they've been doing a lot more canola up here, and the other reason is obviously because the price of wheat has been depressed for a long time too.
Sure.
So when you're talking $4 or $5 per bushel wheat, back in 1980, it was $4 a bushel wheat, and a tractor cost $25,000, and a combine was $50,000.
Right.
Well, now it's $4 wheat, and a tractor costs $325,000, and a combine is $250,000 or $500,000.
Right.
So things are kind of skewed.